So, moving on to the next subject, and it's definitely also a relevant one all over social media and everything, and it is the beef between Mr. Kevin Samuels and Dr. Umar Johnson. So, for those of you who don't know who either one of these people are, what are you doing? That's the first question. How do you not know who Umar Johnson or Kevin Samuels are? But just so Dr. Umar Johnson is a clinical psychology and certified school psychologist. And he definitely is someone who is known to speak out on a lot of the prevalent stories in the Black community. Kevin Samuels is a glorified relationship guru. He has recently became very famous for speaking directly to Black women about a lot of the issues that he feel like are prevalent within the Black community, specifically with Black women. So there is a beef between the two of them, with Umar Johnson's position being that Kevin is just out to tear Black women down. He's not, actually taking the opportunity to uplift them. He's just criticizing. And Kevin Samuels' position is, I'm Kevin Samuels. I'm not going to sugarcoat shit. I'm going to tell you how it is, and you can do with it what you like. And it's not, necessarily about tearing down, but he's just going to, say what he needs to say. This is definitely one that has a lot of moving parts, so we can't possibly go over all of it. If you have not had the opportunity to look up information on both of these gentlemen, I would definitely say that, couldn't hurt to look into, both of them. We're definitely going to go ahead and throw this to Mr. PAT to start us off on this subject. Mr. Pat, what say you, sir?
All right, so yeah, this right here is very interesting to me, because I actually like both Dr. Umar Johnson and Kevin Samuels. Mm-hmm. And I
don't like Umar, but that's just me.
I will say that beef, I'm gonna just say it with air quotes, because if you ask one of them, they'll probably be like, yeah, it ain't really a beef, whatever. And which I think Kevin Samuels did say, hey, I ain't got no problem with you, Umar.
And after mocking him.
Right, exactly. After mocking him.
And I love it too, though. I love it.
But yeah, so like I said before, I like Dr. Umar Johnson, and I like Dr. Umar Johnson for his Black advocacy, the same way I like the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan for his Black advocacy.
Oh, that hoe.
I also like Kevin Samuels, and I like Kevin Samuels for the content that he has been putting out. Now, I know he's tagged as a relationship expert or guru, and I guess he's an image consultant as well, or he's all of the above. I won't get too much into whether people agree or disagree with the relationship expert label, but what I will say is that the advice that he gives women, Black women in particular, is rooted in logic and common sense. And yes, he does have a no-nonsense approach, and he doesn't cater to his female guests' feelings and emotions. He's the type of dude who just tells them the truth, the brutal, honest truth about themselves and their situation in life and why they are still single. Now, I know that his tone or his delivery has been a turnoff for a lot of people. If this is the case, then my question would be, why would Black women still continue to call up his show for advice? I really
already know the answer to it.
That's really a question that I have, because a lot of people talk about his tone and his delivery, but it's, you know, the thing is people keep calling him up. So, you know, but
I actually agree with that question, even though I don't like Kevin Samuels at all. I actually agree
I
with
have
the
the
question
answer
of
for
why
it.
yeah, you know, it's just,
him
but
out.
I have the answer for it. It's not.
yeah,
It's not.
but
It's not a
I know
difficult
why they
answer.
do call up his show. And Dr. Umar said it best in his response to Kevin Samuels and the Black Manosphere, because I know Umar had sent some shots towards the Black Manosphere. That he basically said that there are Black women out there who are seeking validation, and they seek that validation by subjecting themselves to being scolded and berated by Black men. Now that I agree with. I agree that this is like a way of seeking some type of validation. That and I think that's the reason why some of these women will call up, because they want that Black male validation.
There is a part to it, yes, but it doesn't have to be about this whole belittling thing and whatnot.
Right.
But that's the thing why I don't like Umar Johnson for. I'm gonna let you finish on PAT, but I just want to say, like, that's the main reason why I don't like him for,
Yeah, we'll definitely get to why you don't like him, because I'm actually interested in hearing more, I guess, about why you don't like him. But yeah, I'll just go ahead and speak my piece real quick. But so basically, some of the Black women that call up, like I said before, it's a way of seeking validation, and they're speaking to Black men who have built a brand off of criticizing Black women. Now, I actually listened to the content produced by some of the people in the Black Manosphere, and when we say the Black Manosphere, we're basically talking about a group of Black men, whether you want to call them a crew or a group or whatever, a collective. I think collective might probably be a better term. They're very critical of Black women, and I agree with some of their content, and I disagree with some of their content. Of course, there's some truth, and then there are some broad generalizations that are in there. So I see both sides, and I do think overall that some of those criticisms are valid. However, I personally don't like the whole gender war thing between Black men and Black women. And if it were me,
it's all about division.
And I don't like that. And like the thing is, if it were me, I wouldn't build a brand off of constantly criticizing one gender or over the other like that. I mean, and I'm building a brand right now. I have a brand. We all have a brand. But the thing is, I'm not going to sit here and spend most of my time creating content to criticize, Black women. That's just not me. Like, I'm not going to do it. And I'm not going to do it to Black men either.
That makes a whole lot of sense.
So that's just not me. And the thing with me is, I typically hold both Black men and Black women accountable. I'm not a panderer. I'm not going to pander to one group or the other.
Exactly.
But the Black man and the Black woman have their faults, and accountability needs to go on both sides. That's just my view of things. And
absolutely agree.
Yeah, and I've seen Dr. Umar hold both the Black man and the Black woman accountable. However, I can see where some people would say he panders a bit more to Black women. Now, on some level, I can agree with that, but I would say at least he's not like a Derek Jackson, someone who has built a career off of pandering to Black women.
He's basically the opposite Kevin Samuels.
Right. He's like on the opposite spectrum. But the thing with Derek Jackson is he was pandering to Black women and selling them on lies. So that was like the whole other end of the spectrum. So I think Dr. Umar, he panders a bit more to Black women, but he's not to that extreme like a Derek Jackson, for example. Now, in terms of the beef, the quote unquote beef between Dr. Umar and Kevin Samuels, to my knowledge, it stemmed from Kevin Samuels taking some shots at Dr. Umar on his show. And one of Kevin Samuels' callers told Kevin Samuels that he should speak to Black women the way Dr. Umar does. I guess Mr. Samuels got annoyed by that. And so he pointed out the fact that Dr. Umar has 2 baby mothers that he never married, and mentioned that Dr. Umar's school hasn't been built yet. He said those things, among other things. Now, Dr. Umar responds back in one video, a video where he actually doesn't mention Kevin Samuels by name. But this same video is where Dr. Umar talks about a group of beta male YouTubians. That's his exact words. He talks about a group of beta male YouTubians who slander and criticize Black women. He also,
man-child would say.
He also threw a shot at Kevin Samuels' intellect in another video by basically saying something along the lines of trying not to respond to individuals whose intellectual competence he considers far below his own. He said this, among other things, in an interview he had with Mark Lamont Hill. Now, what I find interesting about this quote-unquote beef is that both Dr. Umar Johnson and Kevin Samuels are 2 Black men who, at this point in time, have a huge following. They each have a huge following of their own. And their following is both Black men and Black women. Dr. Umar is an intellectual and a Pan-Africanist who is about the upliftment of Black people as a collective, while Kevin Samuels, as we have stated before, is the relationship expert, guru, image consultant who speaks to Black women, particularly single mothers who have been having problems in the dating field. So while one is known for uplifting Black women, the other is accused of tearing Black women down. So for me, this whole thing just makes for an interesting beef, putting up the air quotes again, because it's basically 2 Black men who are on opposite sides of the coin. And the funny thing is, I actually agree with both sides. I agree with both of their perspectives. I'm really not one for picking sides, because I think there is room for both perspectives. You know, everybody's different. Everybody's not going to approach things the same. Everybody has a different worldview. Everybody has a different outlook. So, you know, there's always going to be a different perspective. But I would probably lean more on Dr. Umar's side, because I like I said before, I personally wouldn't use my platform to constantly criticize Black women. Now,
we get enough of that shit in our life, trust me.
Right, exactly. Black women get enough, you know, criticism and, you know, harsh treatment and what, you know, it's just y'all get enough of that in the real world. You know,
that makes sense. That makes sense. But
and standing together.
That makes, I mean, it makes sense. But
so that I wouldn't use my brand for that. Like, that's just not what I'm gonna do. I more so would uplift Black women. That's just me. Now, at the same time, I do think there is room for critique. There is room for criticism, but there has to be room for upliftment as well. You need both. And we can't just keep harping on the faults of Black women. Like, we just can't, as Black men, I'm speaking of Black men on this one. We can't just keep harping on the negative aspects or the faults of Black women. You know, it's on both sides. You know, there are things that Black men need to work on. There are things that we need to work on as men. You know, I can admit that, you know, so it's about holding both sides accountable. And for me, it's like, let's stop this gender divide bullshit. Like, Black men and Black women need to be working together. That's what we need to be focusing on. You know, when it's just Black men going at Black women, or vice versa, Black women going at Black men, like, cut the bullshit. Like it's just bullshit. And I just think we need to just knock this whole gender war bullshit off, you know, and figure out a way to come together and work together. So, you know, that's how I look at it.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thank you, sir. Thank you for sharing. If you all don't mind, I think I'll wrap this one up. So I'm gonna go ahead and throw this to you, E-Man. What say you, sir?
All right, thank you. I just wanted to make sure my mic was good because it's been acting kind of funny. So first things first, you know, I don't think E-Man's gonna walk in here with a PSA, but E-Man's gonna come out with something and be like, you know what? Umar Johnson, you are a man child and a hoe too. You know what I'm saying? And a hoe. So PAT, so you definitely want to know why I don't like, I can't even say dislike. Like, you fail me, Umar Johnson. You know, I remember when I first watched you, literally, I think sometime mid-early 2000s and whatnot. Mid-early 2000s, could be late. I couldn't even call what year it was. But I was listening to you, and I wanted to see what type of person you are, because it seemed like you was talking about some good information, and I loved everything what you were saying. But I always questioned you because the simple time was every time you would talk, you know, you would always be in a room in front of a computer and whatnot. So I knew something it was something weird about you that always kept bothering me and whatnot. So and that's all, you know, a few, like, you know, some of the talks that you did, that you recorded, you know, first time around, and you know, I thought it was dope. But now, when I take the time, I was like, man, Umar's just another joke. You know, I just watched a video about Umar, you know, talking about the school that he was trying to build. But my man was talking about gambling and whatnot. So I'm sitting over here like, bro, are you gambling funds that you're getting donations from? And, you know, I don't want to, excuse me, but I don't want to be, you know, the person, you know, who's going to be throwing out, you know, the information about donations and whatnot. See, I don't want to put that information out there because I know a lot of people come out to me because of this person, you know, and I own a business, and I know, you know, business flow and how everything moves, and I know the whole things about donations and whatnot. So I'm not going to put that information out there. Extremely crazy to see a video of you talking about gambling, how we need to get this school and whatnot, you know, and I was actually supporting you, you know, when other people sharing me informations about you, you know, about you building the school and everything, because I loved all the ideas and whatnot, you know. And I tell everyone, me being in education, you know, I'm trying to see the growth of the righteousness of good things that you guys are trying to say you're going to do. But it's the same thing how Barack Obama failed us. And I was like, no, you're selling me another story. And every time I keep looking more and more, you always disappoint me and whatnot, you know? So I feel like you're just feeding up, you know, Pan-Africanism just to keep everyone coming, you know, to your talks and whatnot, you know, and use your services as, you know, as a psychologist and whatnot. If that's how you choose to run your business, man, so be it. But I will not let you keep degrading people and just sit here, because it bothers me every single day. And for more, and put this out here, the nerve for you to throw under Kevin, like Samuels, like, you know what I'm saying, man, you ain't got that right, man, because you haven't done anything to show anything and whatnot at all. And it's been like this for the past like 5-7 years, and it's not going to change and whatnot. Kevin's the homie and whatnot. And when people ask me why you say that, I was like, it's not because how direct Kevin is and whatnot. Mm-hmm. But I gotta give Kevin the applause for being, you know, a black man, putting out at least an effort, you know, helping, you know, black women, an effort, you know, because Kevin don't have to do it and whatnot. He doesn't. Kevin can probably be doing something else, you know. And a lot of people, I know everybody hates the way he delivers things, but I tell people sometimes there's certain things people have to hear to get them to actually move to do something, you know. And I feel like that's why Kevin's not going to change the way he goes about everything, you know? And I tell people I have to respect that because that's that man's business. And for my thing, when it comes to business, my job is not to remove food from nobody's mouth if your business is correct. Because that's not how I move and whatnot. Because I'm not going to do something to undermine your business and whatnot to feel like, you know, I feel like, you know, because you're doing this and that and I don't like you, so I need to get rid of you. That's just not me. Because most people don't know, you know, how Kevin Samuels even started his business. But a lot of people can tell me how Umar started and whatnot, you know? But I still feel like Umar he's just a fool, and he's always going to be a fool, you know? Because every time I hear about Umar Johnson, he keeps making me think about, you know, how, and this is not even dissing, you know, Brother Polite, but how what they're doing right now, that they're always speaking and whatnot, but they're not moving anything. But then you will always see, you know, Polite in a party and whatnot, which is fine and whatnot. But you want to speak on some type of affirmation, but you're not trying to even just help to build people become better people and whatnot, you know? That's why I give Kevin the credit for, you know, he's at least doing something, at least, and whatnot, you know? A lot of people don't like his delivery, so big. There's a lot of people that hate people every single day. Not even just black and white, just people in general and whatnot, you know? Yeah? And based and not too sure many people know this, but based upon not just research, but everything, many people say and already stated that the black woman and the black man are the most damaged people in the universe today and whatnot. Now, I'm not trying to, you know, not sugarcoat, but what I'm saying is that, you know, men don't give birth to children, you know, but women do, you know, and everyone has a point where you're being toxic in this universe. The reason why is because we're not meant to be in this matrix that we keep living in, because it gets difficult every day, and it's all about this whole new learning process thing, you know, because nobody has control over their resources, you know. Wherever you live, those resources are different. So every 50 state have different resources and how things are moving and whatnot, you know. And within this matrix, certain people have certain people in their lives that helps them out every day, you know, to better their situation, so that they get better resources to do things and whatnot, you know. And you know, no one has control over that power, you know, but you have control of yourself to better yourself, you know, and that's the thing. We have this whole toxic cycle that we can keep moving, but we don't do anything to stop it and whatnot, you know. Even though Kevin goes about it the wrong way, but he's trying to stop it, you know, because for me, I'm still trying to figure out, you know, who the hell Umar Johnson has helped towards, you know, as any woman out there and whatnot, because I haven't heard any woman that Umar has worked with and stated that, you know, Umar Johnson has done this for me and whatnot, you know. Nothing at all and whatnot. I see some of the stuff that he does towards all his talks, towards the pictures, the recordings and whatnot. I met people who went to his stuff and whatnot, but there's so many other people who I met that went to his, like, you know, his talks and whatnot, you know, when they were over there, they kind of disliked them and whatnot. But then I had to learn something new, because when you are in front of somebody, when you get to see the real thing, it's different when you see it in front of a computer when it's recorded. And that's the issue, you know, I want to say people don't battle with, but that's the issue that we got to understand, that, you know, we can't let people like Umar Johnson out there anymore, because I can't see anything that he's done well, you know. And I feel like he probably picked this fight with Kevin only because the simple fact that young lady said something about it, you know, because if she didn't say anything about it, what do you think Umar Johnson would be? The same dude in front of the camera talking about, you know, we need to get this school running, we need to get this running and whatnot, you know?
Well, like, to my knowledge, I think it was Kevin that sparked it off. Like Kevin,
I mean, he sparked out what he said, you know, right, what I'm saying?
And then Umar's responding to him. Dr. Umar's responding to him.
But I thought the simple fact was, you know, when a young lady called Kevin and whatnot,
right, she mentioned Umar. She was like, why can't you speak more like Dr. Umar? Mm-hmm. And then so that's when Kevin kind of just went in, because he's like, the fuck, like y'all comparing me to this man, and like, you know,
and that's an insult and whatnot. And I'm glad he recognized that insult, because
I could feel that on you know, because as a man, you don't want to be compared to any other man. So I definitely feel Kevin from that perspective, but he still responded. He still threw shots at Umar because of that. You know, he could have just, you know, the woman who said that, she could, Kevin could have just been like, all right, but we're not here. We're not talking to Dr. Umar. I'm not Dr. Umar. You're talking to Kevin Samuels. And then that would have been it.
That he could have gone about that.
But his response was childish and immature.
But that's not how Kevin is and whatnot. You see, that's not how Kevin is. So like,
well, that's something he needs to self-evaluate with himself while he's spending all this time evaluating everyone else. Learn to be able, first of all, if he felt that it was an insult for someone to say, why can't you speak as someone else? Not, you're lesser than Dr. Umar, or Dr. Umar is better than you. That's not what she said. If his immediate reaction was to insult the person that was brought up, that's immature as fuck.
So it makes sense, but when you see it from the perspective from it and whatnot, you know, to Kevin, Umar is lesser than me, and many people know this. Like, a lot of people know this. Well, most people speak about Umar Johnson. He's known to certain people, but he is not at that level with like many people and whatnot. Like, I'll put it like this: the minister Louis Farrakhan has more upright than Umar Johnson. Like, when most people think of Umar Johnson, he's like, well, even Brother Polite got more hype than like Umar Johnson.
Listen, if you don't agree with what he says, that's one thing. But I'm not going to discredit a man that holds PhDs, especially a black man in the United States of America. It takes way too much effort to get there. He faced 10 times more difficult situations than any of his counterparts to achieve those PhDs. And there is no way that I'm going to discredit those efforts at all. Brother Polite, or whatever his name was, don't got no PhDs the last time I checked.
I mean, he don't. But for me, the reason why I discredit Umar is because of the stuff he does. You know what I'm saying? I respect him towards everything he does. I respect towards whatever you got towards your education. But you, as a brother yourself, like, yo, like, I can't get with you anymore. Like, you can't even have a seat at my table and whatnot, you know? Because it's not just a simple fact I don't trust you. It's a simple fact. It's just like, what have you done, man? Like, it's like you have, and this is one thing about it. There's one interesting thing that he told me that I was very shocked. He told me the breakdown of how public charter schools work and whatnot, you know? He told me he'd actually worked in few one. So, you know, so I'm thinking that's what encouraged him to get a school and whatnot, you know? But I'm going to ask you this, right? If you knew how the system worked and everything like that, and I know you've been going around, helping others and whatnot, but you haven't even affirmed, to really help, the people who say you're going to help and whatnot. Like, he hasn't. That's the thing that bothers me about like Umar Johnson. Like, he speaks the correct affirmation, but don't follow through with it and whatnot. And it was very crazy because, when I had that situation with somebody, when I had a conversation with somebody one day, when I jumped on YouTube, Young Pharaoh had a weird video and whatnot, which is not on YouTube, which is on his website, that he exposed Umar Johnson and whatnot about the fraud that he is and whatnot. And there was a lot of things that was in that video that I've already researched and talked to, not just with certain people, but those who've actually went to like his talk and told me the same thing. So it's just hard, especially as a Black brother. It's kind of hard to really dive into this and be like, you know what? You just not it and whatnot.
Well, real quick here. So here's the thing. So I understand that Dr. Umar is people see him as problematic, I'll say. I mean, of course, he has his fans, he has his following. Supporters, me being one of them. But on the flip side, he has the people who have issues with them, and that's fine. Because I understand that people don't like some of his antics or maybe some of the things he has said before. And it just doesn't jive well with their spirit, or just
he's just all over the place.
Yeah, but just like Naya was saying, I will never discredit him in terms of his education and him being having his PhDs. I just would never I just would never discredit him on that level. That's why I make it my business to keep saying Dr. Umar, because I think we need to respect our Black scholars more.
Absolutely.
And even Dr. Boyce Watkins, I always make it my business to say doctor. I don't even just say their first name. I'll say, Dr. Umar, Dr. Boyce. Because
it takes way too much for us to accomplish these goals. Black males or Black females, I apologize, didn't mean to interrupt you there, Pat. But it takes way too much in this country for us to accomplish those goals, to ever disrespect, for lack of a better term. Not saying anyone on this podcast did, but for any of those who have grievances with Dr. Umar's antics, okay, fine. You don't have to agree with the way that he handles everything, but that is a completely separate issue from his accomplishments when this country sets out to make it as difficult as possible for us to achieve those goals.
Exactly. Yeah. He's a Black man who achieved those goals, and he's had the opposition just like we all have. And, when a Black man or a Black woman reaches that level, I just think this is just my opinion. And I know Naya, I know you agree, but I just think we just need to respect their credentials. If we don't like their antics or we don't like something they say or do, fine, because of course, we can't all agree on things. We all have a different outlook on things, and that's fine. But when it comes to credentials, education, things of that nature, things that Black men and Black women have accomplished despite the odds, I mean, I just think we just need to respect that more. That we just need to say, you know what, I don't really fuck with you as a person, but you're still accomplished. You're still an accomplished Black man. You are still an accomplished Black woman. So that's just my whole thing. And that's why I personally keep saying Dr. Umar. I do that on purpose. Because, some people will be like, oh, Umar Johnson. And it's you don't hear white people talk about their scholars in that way. They put respect on their scholars' name.
I definitely, like I said, I definitely respect that. But my conscience won't let me do it for him. But you know what I'm saying? But Dr. Watkins and whatnot, that brother is amazing. And he gets no credit for the stuff he does and whatnot. Because I'm always on his IG page, and he actually talks about some really good things. And Dr. Anderson Clark also, too, that brother needs to get his respect more and whatnot. That's one person who is really, really educating people.
Dr. who?
Anderson, what's his name?
Oh, Claude Anderson.
Claude Anderson, yeah.
He's another one. Definitely, we got
that is one brother that I gotta say, I gotta show my respect to and whatnot, because he has actually not just helped me, but he helped me on certain things to share with certain people. That we don't just need to get it together, but the simple fact is that we, as a people, are so, I wouldn't say damaged, but our toxicity has damaged us so much towards that we're still choosing to live in it, and we need to do better behind that, and that's the growth that I'm trying to see. And that's the same thing why, that's the reason why I don't like, what's his name? Umar Johnson. But that's just how it is. And so that's how people, it's not going to change until he can show me, like until he can be like, it's not even just about the school, but you can show me and show everyone, like, boom, I got this, and you show me something like, yo, this is it, then I'll be like, you know what, brother, I apologize. But till then, you gotta, you just, you know, like, I feel like it's like apples and oranges, you know, at the moment. That's what it is with me. That's just me. So
Understood. Understood, fellas. Well, I definitely think that you both made some fair points. Definitely think on this one that I am a little more in agreement with Pat here. I don't particularly, and I just realized that I said earlier in the program, you know, that I disliked Kevin Samuels. I cannot say, I do want to go ahead and take the time to retract that, because I cannot say that I dislike him, because that is not the case. My true feeling on the matter is that I dislike his methods. I do not approve of, in anyone, in any shape, fashion, or form, anything that causes divisiveness in the Black community. We have enough of that shit. Like, we already deal with, as it stands, enough in this country that the last thing that we need to be doing, especially in recent times, is trying to portray any group as solely responsible for anything that is going on in the community. And I'm not saying that Kevin Samuels has said that Black women are responsible for all the negativity that we face in the community. I'm not saying that. But he has most certainly taken a decisive approach to addressing some of the critiques he had for Black women, which is more so along the lines of, I'm going to criticize, and it's up to you to uplift after I criticize. No, sir. It's balance, right? Because the issues that the Black community face, first of all, if we want to be 100% real about shit, most of the issues that the Black community face were not created by us. They were grown by us. They were grown through the experiences and the life choices we were forced to make to a certain extent, but they were not created by us. They were created by those who sought to control our behaviors because of the threat that we pose. So in order for us to be able to see serious change, to have a serious effect on not just the lives we live now, but the generations we're responsible for influencing, you got to stop with all this divisiveness shit. It's not going to float. It's that simple. And so I don't particularly have any dislike for Kevin Samuels, the human being. I have a dislike for his antics. As far as the situation, and I'm going to touch a little more on that in a second. As far as the situation between Dr. Umar Johnson and Kevin Samuels go, I think that Kevin Samuels' approach to the young lady who mentioned Dr. Umar Johnson was immature. And I think for you to be a self-proclaimed relationship guru, you would think that a part of that knowledge base or intelligence that he proclaims to have would allow him to see the fault of his ways. And similarly to Charlemagne the God, who just recently was able to do that without proclaiming that he's any kind of, guru on a matter, was able to do that. And I know those are two different people, but the point that I'm trying to make is they're both two influential people in the Black community. And there is a level of onus and responsibility that Kevin Samuels has that he has not taken. as far as Dr. Umar goes in the school he was supposed to open and all of that, to be honest with you, I have not followed Dr. Umar nor Kevin Samuels for a very long time, so I cannot speak on those matters. Speaking on this specific matter at hand, I definitely agree that what it seems like Kevin Samuels' goal is to portray that the fault of let me see how I want to appropriately word this, that a good portion of the reason that there is so much disconnect in the Black community when it comes to relationships is because of Black women seeking to have these elevated standards for Black men that they don't have for themselves. Does it happen? Absolutely. As a Black woman, I'm not going to sit here and say that there are not some women, not just Black women, but women in general, who have absolutely ridiculous standards. And at this day and time, you know, we live in a society where couples have to be willing to support each other equally. You know what I'm saying? It boils back down to some of the most simplistic principles, like, you know, 2 incomes are better than 1. Okay. And 2 people supporting each other is better than just 1. So I'm not even saying that I completely disagree with his argument, but delivery, I'm never going to stop saying that delivery isn't important. It is. I know this from my career choice. I am a department head. If I chose to approach every fault of the team that I'm responsible for leading with just blatant bluntness and not caring and not attempting to uplift and train them to be better at what they're doing, my team, there would be anarchy. My team would not want to do shit for me. But because I am the opposite and my approach is, here is an area for improvement. First of all, you both know me. I'm a very firm but fair person. I'm going to give it to you straight, but I'm going to make sure that when I am doing that, I'm also giving you the tools to make the necessary improvements. I have a specific example I want to speak to where there is a video of Kevin Samuels, and it is titled, "I Deserve a Gucci Bag." And it's one of his most famous video interviews because the tagline, at least for the video, is the girl saying, "I deserve a Gucci bag." And his reply being, "You're average at best. Here's a grocery bag." That is not a constructive criticism. Okay. That is tearing someone down. It's unnecessary. And let's keep in mind, he did this after going on video chat with her. So she could have attributed that to not only what she was telling him about her relationship choices, but also her looks. And let me tell you, I don't necessarily agree with her relationship choices. Let me make that clear. In the video, she actually asked him a question, because the premise of the video was that videotaping session was actually for anyone who had disagreements with his viewpoints to call in and talk about those disagreements. She took that opportunity because she was actually someone seeking his advice. She took that opportunity to instead seek his advice on when she should tell a man that she's a business owner. So multiple times throughout that video, Kevin Samuels speaks on the fact of how she was manipulative. And I don't know that that is the specific word that he used, but I did know he definitely implies that, about how she was manipulative for using that form to get in to ask him a question when he has a separate form for it. I actually agree that it was most appropriate for her to take the proper channels to seek his advice if that's what she was trying to do. However, the way he berated her about it, and he used the guise of using it as a teaching moment. You can use things as a teaching moment without having to berate the person. It's absolutely not necessary in order to teach someone to teach someone something. And I think that's what Kevin Samuels fails to realize. Oh, if I don't give it to them 100% blunt and straight, they don't really get the message. If I don't hurt their feelings, if I don't make it seem like they're the problem and etc., they're not going to get the message. Sir, that is not the case. I'm speaking from experience. I am saying from experience that is not the case. Another example that I want to speak to, another video of his that I watched, he did an interview where he went on this podcast. And during that podcast, he was speaking to, and I have the links to these. I would definitely be happy to share these when we do release this session. But he went on a podcast and he was being interviewed by a panel. There were, I believe, 3 men and 3 women. And one of the women he was specifically having the debate with, her name was Amanda. And Kevin Samuels actually started off the debate, and his question to her was, why does she feel that things need to be fair? And the video doesn't really go into why Kevin Samuels asked that question. My guess will be that prior to actually starting the debate, she somehow mentioned that, you know, she doesn't feel like Kevin Samuels is fair in his approach. So during that video, he gives her an analogy. He says, first he asks the question, why is being fair so important to women? And then the two of them go back and forth through this, you know, their individual soliloquies about fairness and etc. And then he throws out an analogy where he says, he asks her first, has she ever been to a club? And she says, yes. And he asked her, had she gotten in free? And she said, yes. And he said, okay, so when you go to a club and you get in free because you're pretty, do you turn around and say to the bouncer, no, go ahead and charge me just like you're going to charge the less attractive women because that's the fair thing to do? And she says, no, she doesn't. And she stops there. And his point being that women are tending to only care about fairness when it benefits them. So like there's a double standard. And to a certain extent, I understand where it was coming from. But here is my rebuttal. The difference is that in our individual lives, we have complete control over how fair certain elements of our love lives are, which is the point. We cannot control, she did not control how the bouncer let people in and out of the club or not. But she can control what she will or will not accept in her love life. And that is the aspect that she did not reply back to Kevin Samuels with that I would have. The difference, what we're talking about here is, you all know me, what's my MO? Accountability. Accountability is not exclusive to women or men. Accountability is for everyone. That means Black women, and that means Black men. The Black community is separated from a relationship standpoint because the creators of this disdain worked many years and decades to keep us separated with certain initiatives, right? The housing authority is one of them. You can have this many people stay, but it can't be a man, and all of this other shit. And now we are just coming to the point where we've recognized, right? We have a clear view of the agenda to keep us separated. And now is the time where we have to work through all of those anomalies and all of those issues that lie before us. So if you're going to take the time to call yourself a self-proclaimed relationship guru, you better damn well be taking the time to reflect on the entire picture, sir. See the whole scope. And I think that's what Dr. Umar's point was about. It's not that you have these criticisms. That's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. However, if your delivery is not going to be both truth and upliftment, Go sit the fuck down somewhere until you figure out how to address things appropriately, and not just to Black women, to Black men. We all as a race face too much in this country. Outside influences who are designed to keep us separate. The last fucking thing we need right now is one of us working to do the same. Put your big boy pants on, like you would say to these Black women.
Right.
Put your big boy pants on and get your shit together.
So I enjoyed everything you said. I'm gonna still say Kevin's the homie, but the one thing what I wanted to say was that, you know, I don't know too many, you know, relations consultant, but there was a really good show years ago that I watched, and it was called Tough Love, and the guy was Italian and whatnot, you know, and he was no nonsense, and he was very direct, and he got very loud with these women.
I remember that show.
I remember that show, you know, and, you know, many people didn't call him crazy, but I was very interested how this fella, very big, and how he was really approaching and whatnot, you know, and he knew what he needed to do. He knew what he needed to say and whatnot, you know, and not just from me. And I tell people, I'd rather you get it from an expert rather than getting it from someone, you know, who is basically, you know, the experience, you know, that what you really want.
May I ask a quick question? And I mean this legitimately. Sure. I do honestly mean this legitimately, because I'm not sure of this. What are Kevin Samuels' credentials for him to be a relationship guru? Does he have a life coach license or anything of that nature?
So I think he calls himself an image consultant and whatnot. So when you look at the word image, you know, you're looking at basically, you know, you're looking at not just, you know, internal, but you're also looking externally, you know. See, the difference between what Kevin does and a psychologist, and basically, you know, a psychologist basically talks to you, you know, and gets you to go through your daily, you know, routine, you know. So when you see a psychologist, it's basically, you know, having that safe friend to have a conversation with, to help you, you know, go through your problems. But many psychologists, you know, because they're considered doctors, they can actually write prescriptions for medicine and whatnot, you know.
Right. Yes, I'm aware of that. But Kevin Samuels is a self-proclaimed image consultant. As a Black man and not a Black woman, what qualifies him to only specialize as a self-proclaimed image consultant to just Black women?
Because Kevin came from a Black woman, you know. And I know that sounds extremely crazy. And this is why a lot of people also hate Young Pharaoh for the same reason also too. This is the same reason why and whatnot, you know, because we all know the Black woman is God and whatnot, but we also know, you know, not just from studies and everything that goes around in this matrix, you know, that the Black woman is the most attacked woman throughout society, you know. Yeah. And they plan this, you know, day by day and daily and whatnot, you know. Like that is actually true, you know. So for many, and I'm not trying to go on toward many fellas, but for many fellas and whatnot who probably grew up with a toxic mother, you know, see things quite differently, you know.
Why do you assume it's probably? Yeah. You said probably. Are you saying that for those that grew up with a toxic mother, or are you saying that generally there's a consensus that Black women are toxic mothers?
All Black women are not toxic mothers.
Right.
But what I'm saying is that there are fellas who have grown up with toxic mothers. So I wasn't going to say majority of all women are toxic and whatnot. You know? Right. Men and women are all toxic, you know. Yeah. But we have to understand that basically that's energy. So and the reason why is that and there's a really good book that I'm reading right now that I'm about to finish that I'm actually going to share with everyone. But it talks about, and I talk about this daily, but it talks about basically, you know, how people take their beliefs, and you know how you push a belief on someone, but yet someone not, like you struck your own beliefs on someone and they don't believe it. So basically what they'll do is not talk to you. So and just using this sense in this case is that, you know, many people don't, I would say, dislike, you know, Kevin's, like, you know, the way he goes about it, because they don't, I wouldn't say align, they basically don't align with his beliefs, how he's getting it done and whatnot. Because if he's not getting it done correctly, you know, I wouldn't say women wouldn't be calling him, but many people won't be seeking his advice and whatnot, you know. And that's just truth overall, you know, because people are seeking Kevin's advice, you know. Yeah.
Well, the thing with not to cut you off, but real quick.
No, you good. You good.
The thing with that is he has a ton of YouTube videos. He has a ton of content on YouTube, and this is no shot at Kevin Samuels or anybody along those lines. But the thing is, when somebody like himself or anybody else who has a ton of content online on YouTube specifically, at some point you will build a following. People start following you, and yeah, if you're saying the right things and you know you seem informed and you know you're really giving some game to people, dropping knowledge, yeah, people gonna follow, and then all that just builds up traction, and then at some point people start looking at that person who's putting out, you know, 10 videos a week or whatever, you know, and they have like thousands of videos. By the time the year is over, you know, they're looking at that person as the professional, they're looking at them as the elite, you know. So at that point, once you're like at your, whether it be, you know, your 500th, you know, 550th or your 700th video, credentials probably don't even matter at that point, because now people are like, damn, he has like all this content. This dude or, you know, this gal knows what the fuck they're talking about, because how do you make all these videos, you know, doing X, Y, and Z, you know? So I just think it's interesting. And then, of course, there's the question of what are his credentials? Because people are, of course, like Naya asks, and other people are asking too, what qualifies him? You know, what certification does he have? You know, some people are going to look at that and they're going to ask that question, which I think is a legitimate question. You know, what qualifies him to be the person to critique Black women in the way that he does?
Yeah, because I'm not going to just walk into a hospital and tell the surgeon they're doing some shit wrong. You know what I'm saying? You're talking about he's trying to give advice that he's hoping would make serious impact on these women's lives. At least that's what he has stated his intention to be, right? Is that he's trying to provide guidance to these women. What certifications do you have to do that? But, I mean, you can't just say I'm born of a Black woman. Everyone who's Black is born of a Black woman or a Black man. I'm not going to sit here and tell a Black man how he should or should not approach certain things. You know what I'm going to do? At least while not trying to understand his side of it and supporting him. That's my issue with Kevin Samuels. You don't, it's not that you have an opinion that is not, you know, a common or agreed upon opinion. That's fine. I have lots of opinions that are not common, agreed upon opinions. But for you to see no error in your ways, first of all, that's narcissism. Okay? Because you're not perfect. You're a human being, just like, I don't care what kind of consultant you are, image consultant, you can give it whatever fancy fucking name you want. You can work out.
I think you actually said that on camera too, though.
Yeah, I mean, you can eat clean, you can work out however you want, you can do whatever you want to do. You're not attractive to someone. just like I'm not attracted to someone. So you can be whatever, self-proclaimed whatever you want to be. My issue is not with him addressing certain aspects that he sees in individual women. That's not what Kevin Samuel does. Kevin Samuel labeled Black women as this and that. He generalized the fuck out of all of us in multiple ways, in multiple forms. He has done this. And my problem is, obviously, we are in a time right now where we do not have time for that divisiveness. We do not have time for you to make blanket statements. You are only perpetuating stereotypes, which do not apply to all Black women or all Black men for that matter. Let me tell y'all something. I get offended. Like, I will give you the business is one of the reasons I actually ended up in Facebook jail, because this chick went on Facebook and said that Black men ain't shit as fathers. I lost my shit. You would have thought that I was born a Black man in transition or something. I said, first of all, don't you ever dare make such a disgusting and blanket comment about Black men, as if we as a community do not face enough as it is in this world with, you know, all different kinds of folk hating us and trying to keep us down. That kind of divisiveness doesn't sit well with me. And I will address that shit every time, whether it's with Black women or Black men. That was the first time I actually got thrown in Facebook jail for 30 days because I went the fuck off on her and did not care. And at the end of the day, I feel the exact same way. You are not helping our movement. You are not helping towards the direction we need to be going as a community.
Right, real quick, and I want to add something else to that. So Naya, what you're saying is on point, but it speaks to what I mentioned, like the Black Manosphere, for example. Some, you know, I think it's really called the Negromanosphere, but you know, of course, people say the Black Manosphere. It's like, you know, the Manosphere, whatever. But you know, going back to what I was saying earlier, so. Yeah, Kevin Samuels, he has these criticisms of Black women, but he damn sure he's not the only one. There's quite a few of these niggas out here who have you know, YouTube pages, and they're putting up all this content criticizing Black women, and some of these dudes are blaming single Black mothers for the failure of the Black community, which I highly disagree with. You know, I think it's some bullshit when they do that. You know, to me, that's when I'm like, all right, I gotta. They're
talking about how the government divisively, you know, put that together and whatnot. I think that's the common logic that they use, but everyone.
That's not always the case, though.
I know that's not always the case. I would love
to paint us all as saints, we aren't, and there are just as many toxic Black men who decide for whatever reason that they're not going to stick around, as there are toxic Black women who push them away.
Right.
That's what basically what I was just about to say. But damn, but thank you, Naeem. But that's the thing, because I feel like it's this whole piggyback thing where, like, you know, they're trying to figure out where this toxicity come up. So now everyone feels like, you know, they're coming out here to like explain all this and using a few affirmations based upon the government and whatnot to speak on their claims and whatnot, you know. But like PAT was saying, you know, I feel like it's not this whole dominant effect. It seems like everyone has a say in everything, but it's not drawing up the results that you want, and it's not drawing the results that we need. It's like this whole neutral effect and whatnot. So it's like someone says something, but then boom, then it doesn't go anywhere. And then since it's not going anywhere, you know, now you have everybody spazzing and whatnot. Like, even when Nine Angels talk, you know, about somebody who said, you know, Black fathers ain't shit and whatnot, you know. For me, I see that as very laughable. But then I'll tell them and whatnot, just by you saying it, it seems like, you know, you dated a man. Probably he was probably Black because you felt, you know, Black, you know, fathers ain't shit and whatnot. But you probably dated a man, you know, that who was probably toxic, and you were probably also toxic too and whatnot. But then, you're pulling out, I would say, more of the blame card, that instead of, talking about and blaming each other about the situation, you're blaming mostly him on the situation, because it takes two to make a kid.
Right. But then she makes a blanket statement about black men. That's what's going on.
And that's the issue right now, Right. So it's not just the whole thing just about accountability, you know what I'm saying? But you have to now just own it's not just the accountability, but you also have to own up to your own mistakes that you make. So it's not even just it's about, if you messed up.
That's what accountability is.
Right.
Owning up to the mistakes that you make on both sides. Everyone has to, Kevin, keep in mind, these are not women that Kevin Samuels has taken the time to know. It's not like he said, okay, before I do any of these very public interviews, I'm going to spend 2.5 hours with you sitting and talking and really trying to understand your life choices, which is something that is a relationship you build up with a psychologist or a life coach. It's more than just the surface information that is provided. He's making all of these judgments based on surface information and then trying to tell them they need to be accountable based on that information. Okay, bruh, so do you. You need to be accountable for the fact that you have given yourself, you have self-proclaimed yourself a lifestyle image or whatever it is you want to call it without the appropriate credentials to do so.
I mean, they were fighting Umar on the same thing too, but
but Umar actually has credentials, so I think that's a bit different. Because I remember people were coming at him about his degrees, which I was like, come on, like, y'all, stop that. But because just like he said, it's like you could call up the schools that he went to. You could get the number online and call him up and find out.
I don't think it was more that it was the discredit. It was mostly about his doctorate and whatnot, because he didn't receive a doctorate.
Right, but people are still discrediting him.
That's where the discredit came from and whatnot. It didn't do simple effect, like it didn't do simple in school. There was like, yo, are you really a psychologist? Do you really have a doctorate in psychology?
Right, but here's my thing with that though. See, then one of the reasons why I have a problem with stuff like that is because, okay, so are we doing that with the white doctors?
Right.
Doing that with the Asian doctors?
They're not, because they're not. So
exactly. Why are people doing that with the black doctors? That's what I'm trying to figure out.
And that's why I don't even bring up that situation. That I feel like that's the same thing. They want, everything has to stay neutral. And it'd be like, well, it's now we got to discredit like Umar because his credentials. Well, like, are you going to discredit this one and whatnot for his credential?
Right, but
9 times out of 10 they're going to say no.
This because he has his degrees are from Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. That's a real institution. Like he said, if people's issues are whether they're legitimate or not, that is a real institution. Check on the credentials. Yeah. I would be very shocked if the man is walking around using a real institution.
But the guy who did the whole tough love thing and he had like 2 seasons on the show, and he's been an image consultant, he calls, I forget what they call him. I don't know what he calls himself towards like his title and whatnot. But when that show came out and everything, he been doing it almost like damn near 20 some odd years and no one. Ain't nobody questioned him at all. And I'm not, picking on him, but it was very interesting. No one questioned him at all, only because the simple fact is, I don't even think people even remember who he was and whatnot, because, there could be a lot of image consultants out there. I don't know how they do about their business. Everyone walks about, but it seems like it's all about who's hot, who's not. And I don't know, it gets very interesting and dicey now at the moment when you start doing the whole picking and choosing thing. But I get what everyone is saying though. I get it, because I'll put it like this, right? I have no credentials at all as an image consultant, but because what I do as a profession and whatnot, and how people share their lives with me and how I take in advice, with a lot of people. And, I did this at a very young age when I first started, in fitness and whatnot. I started realizing, that even though my work is in fitness, but people see me as somebody that they can actually talk to, that I'm actually consulting and whatnot. But I don't have credentials in consulting at all and whatnot. You know? Some people go about it differently, others do. Some people like to be direct, some people indirect. For me, I'm a pretty direct person, but I do know how certain people are, and I can feel that compassion, and I can actually, level down my playing field of, how I perceive my information on someone. There's others who just don't want to do that.
Yeah. Well, just so you all have this clarification, I just Googled this, and this is an article from the Huffington Post, and it is in reference to an actual court case that was brought up against Dr. Umar Johnson because of some alleged notions from some folks who claimed that he wasn't an actual doctor. So a part of the doctorate, the question is, does the respondent, Umar Johnson, have legal right to professionally and educationally educate to the general public as a psychologist? The respondent and the court found, yes, Dr. Johnson has received his doctoral degree in clinical psychology and certification as a school psychologist. This is not in question at this point. This is with the Philadelphia board and court system.
Yeah,
so
he
I
worked
think that people questioning his credentials need to go ahead with that.
He stated before that he's worked at public charter schools. That's how I know, because of him. I know how that system runs. Like, at school. Yeah, because those public charter schools do hire psychologists, but you don't need a high, like it's not like how you can run your own practice, because once you get a doctorate, you can run your own practice because you've done research and whatnot. Like, he hasn't done official research that he has to go to a board about it, to get dissertation.
He's received his doctoral degree in clinical psychology.
So it means
from Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He has received his doctoral degree in clinical psychology and certification as a school psychologist.
There it is.
That's not in question anymore.
So that means so in this case, that means that basically this man has, research out there in dissertation. That basically means if I go into the Google Scholar section, I should be able to pull up his work.
The only thing it means that Dr. Johnson cannot do is have like a private patient relations, like he can't take on his own patients. But it doesn't mean he didn't receive a doctoral degree. He did. He just didn't take the next steps to be a private practitioner, which is not what he wanted to do. He did move on to get his certifications necessary to be a school psychologist, which he is. So that's what I think people are trying to nitpick at. And the reality of it is bullshit. I'm not nitpicking at anybody that takes that much time to better themselves, especially a black man in the US, bro. No way. It's way too difficult to do that. And regardless of whether you agree with his opinions or not, I'm not taking apart any efforts that anyone makes to achieve those kind of life goals, whether you agree with him or not. And in this particular case, I'm not even saying Dr. Umar was right, Kevin Samuels was wrong. This quote unquote beef, as Pat so eloquently put it, because I agree with you, I'm throwing up quotation marks, Pat, because we already as a community deal with enough that we do not need to have any kind of beef, for lack of a better term, between any of us, especially two prominent figures who have the opportunity to actually lead and appropriately guide our community. But my issues are with Kevin Samuels, his decision-making abilities as far as how he relays his messages and his general, and I'm going to say appearance, because I have never met or spoken to this man. See, unlike him, I'm not going to make artificial judgments when I've never spoken to him or had a conversation with him. So I'm not going to say he is definitely a narcissist. It appears to be that way, though, based on the multitude of research that I've done in this regard. It appears that there is a certain level of narcissism that he has. Oh, I'm the official. I'm the officiate on this. You know, so you're not going to change my opinion. So that's just it. If you are a human being and you are not willing to be open-minded and consider growth and consider that there is an opportunity to learn beyond in certain aspects of life, then you have a long way to go before you call yourself a guru of anything, because the man that knows something knows that he knows nothing at all.
That's true.
Oh damn, Miss. Okay,
she dropped that quote.
I think she just dropped. I knew you was gonna get hit because once you drop a quote, my mouth just went damn. Okay.